Welcome to the Working in Real Estate webinar. I'm your host, Carly Barnett. Join me as we dive into the dynamic realm of talent acquisition and uncover insights that will reshape your approach to both working in real estate and recruiting to build your business. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered. Recruiting Consult acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters that this webinar is recorded on. Welcome to our Working in Real Estate webinar. We are recording episode 9 today, and today we're talking about the sales journey from Scotland to Sydney with Louise Barton. Welcome, Louise. Tell me who you are and a little bit about you before we get into our chat today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. Well, like you said, my name is Louise Barton. I'm currently a residential sales agent at Bresic Whitney. You can probably tell by my voice, I wasn't born here in Australia. I moved here, it'll be 8 years in July, from the Highlands of Scotland, where I did work as a sales agent there for the last 4 years before moving over here to Sydney to continue doing what I love. Before that, I left school. I worked in the dental industry as a dental nurse for many years. I qualified in my dentistry, and then I actually started my health degree, which I completed as I was working as a full-time sales agent as well. So that took a turn, and like I said, my career took me here to Sydney, and the rest is history.
Wow. So we've gone from something completely different in the health field, which I'm sure has transferable skills. It's very much people facing and dealing with people in all sorts of situations. How do you go from working in health and dentistry to real estate? How does that happen?
So I think a lot of people sort of fall into the industry, and that's certainly what happened with myself. I was working as a dental nurse. Even when I was a dental nurse, I was a real go-getter. You know, I mentioned to yourself, I came number 2 for the whole of Scotland in my class. And when I was studying, and I just felt like I was hungry for more. And I guess what suits what I'm doing now is that when I was dental nursing, I loved the client-facing aspect of it, but I hated being stuck within 4 walls. So what I actually started to investigate was my health study degree, which I, of course, ended up completing. But what I imagined post-degree was actually being out there in the field and being a health visitor. So I was driving around and meeting different clients. That's why I actually started the degree. So how I fell into the industry in the end was I went traveling around Thailand. I needed a job as I was starting my degree, and a recruiter actually called me and said, look, I have this job. It's in a real estate office, just a boutique agency in town. And I actually declined the offer of the job initially because it was a full-time position, and I'd started my degree, which was full-time. So I felt like I could only take on a part-time job. But she really pushed me. She said, like, it's only a 2-week position. You get some money. You've just been traveling. So I took the position. It was front of house at the real estate office, and it was ran by 2 powerhouse females. And one evening, one of my bosses called me and she said, look, like, I'm really stuck. I can't go to the showing. Would you be able to take the keys? Just show the property, not too much to it. You'll be fine. I think I'd been in the office for a week at that point, and I sold the property. Sold it the next day, and she said, I need to get you into sales. So I took the position in sales. So I was front office for a week, and I've then always been in sales since. And I completed my degree as I was learning and working as an agent full time. So I never on my radar. I simply fell into the industry, but I fell in love with it really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Go those recruiters convincing candidates to take
I don't know how they managed to make me take that on, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess when you had that conversation with your boss at the time to go across into sales. Was your passion for the health industry starting to drop off, and you're starting to build a bit more of a love for real estate, or you just thought, oh yeah, this will do, I'll get my studies done and I'll go work in the health industry?
Yeah, because like I said, I'd only been in the office for a week. I certainly didn't have any passion for real estate itself at that
Yeah.
stage, but I've always been the type of person that whatever I'm doing, I always wanted to be the very best dental nurse. I'm very hungry, very driven. So, of course, the idea of whilst I was studying, being able to earn commissions and work in a fast paced job certainly suited that part of my personality that loved the the competition side of it. But I never for 1 second thought it would become 10-year career. I just thought it would be something that would keep me busy and keep my bills paid whilst I worked on my degree.
So when you did then make that transition across to the sales side, what did that first few months or the first year look like for you in real estate? What were you doing day to day in your role?
So I actually was really blessed in the fact that I had full admin support from day one. So I had an amazing team in that office, and it was very quickly I did fall in love with the industry. It sounds cheesy, but I was selling pretty much straight away. It did come very naturally to me, because I think there's a lot of skills that you can pick up and learn within the industry, but I think there's certain people skills and how you handle, conversations that you either have that ability or not. And I found that I did have that ability, so I picked it up very quickly. I was making a lot of deals happen very quickly. So I think in turn, everything felt really natural. And, I'm a big believer in that everything happens for a reason. And I felt at that point that, I had found my calling career-wise. I was in my early 20s. I feel like I left school, I'd worked, then I'd started my dental training. Then I'd worked as a dental nurse, then I'd done my degree. So I felt like I'd fell out the market. I tried to do a few different things, and I'd never once felt this passion like I was feeling at that moment when I started in sales. What I loved, because I am such a hard worker, is that you were allowed almost from day one this certain level of freedom as an agent. And as long as you put in the hard work, you were allowed to essentially just run your own show. And I work really well. I work really well just being able to do my own thing and being able to plan out my own day. And it for my style of personality, it's not something that I would have ever sought out, but I felt like it worked really well.
Yeah, because I guess if you'd stay down that health path, your day's very much planned for you. Your appointments are there. You just do them as the customer walks in, you see them. Whereas in real estate, you have to have a whole lot of self-discipline and self-motivation to plan your day, to do the prospecting work, to do the appointments, and to get the outcomes. How did you motivate yourself and keep discipline so that you were hitting sales and getting in front of clients? Because it doesn't just happen by just default of, oh, I've got a job in real estate. There's work behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, self-discipline is not something that I struggle with, and I think that's why it has always, touch wood, worked out really well for myself. I always hold myself accountable. So whether I'm working from home or working from the office, that is one big perk of the job, that we do have that freedom, but that freedom comes at a cost if you're not self-disciplined. So even like I said, I started in, very early 20s. At some stages, I probably felt as a young female, I wasn't taken very seriously, but that was probably the biggest struggle for me, is getting someone to hand over their largest asset to me, someone that, for them has barely left school. But in terms of the struggles with myself, keeping myself disciplined and doing the work every day, that was never an issue. Like I said, once I started up getting a couple of sales, building a track record, word of mouth, Inverness, where I'm from, is a pretty small area. It doesn't take long for word to get around. And I found that things happened quite naturally for me in the area.
Yeah. So while selling in Scotland, did you have any amazing, unusual properties that you sold? Because the last person I interviewed had done a small stint of work experience in Ireland and had exposure to these castles and amazing properties. Is there anything weird and wonderful that you got to sell or inspect in Scotland?
Like so many, I was really blessed that I specialised in a really small pocket, which is very tightly held in Inverness called Crown. And Crown features the most beautiful historical properties, and for me, is a really special part of Inverness. And so I had old stable blocks in the garden. I had these fantastic basements, and I used to take people down with a torch, and it used to be filled with weird and wonderful things. There's not one property that stands out, and unfortunately, there's not been a castle. But the properties I were selling, they were steeped in history.
Yeah.
Really stunning homes. Like I said, that
Yeah.
was definitely a special one where it had the original stable block in the garden. It was lovely. It was definitely a really beautiful place to start my career. And
Yeah,
just learn
absolutely.
the old architecture and these historical homes. So that
Yeah.
definitely, I think that's what lit my passion a lot when I was working on the older style properties.
Yeah, because you'd be learning so much of that history through that storytelling with that sales process to get your buyers engaged with the
Yeah,
property.
I'm gonna say, like, I think a big difference in Scotland is that we do not open properties via open forum inspection. We show
Yeah.
purely via private inspection. So that's something that I definitely think actually benefits me now when a property over here does have a story to tell. It sounds so silly, but I was literally taught how to properly show a home and how to discuss, the history behind the home and really sell it to someone one-on-one. You'll never find me opening a door, taking a name and telling them to go inside and have a look around. I was taught for years and years to show people through a home and really tell the tale of it. And I feel like buyers really engage with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that storytelling is where the engagement comes, and engagement is where the emotion comes, and then they fall in
Exactly.
love and drives the price. And so the story goes with making that sale. So
Yeah.
4 years there of doing that, coming to Sydney, did you decide, I don't want a career anymore, I want to travel? Or how do you go from doing sales and working so well to essentially giving all of that up?
Yeah, it was. It was hard. It was a really hard decision, but I felt like I really needed a challenge, and I am very loyal to where I work, and I wouldn't have moved to a different agency. I just felt like I needed more. It's a really strange feeling. I get it sometimes where it's just in my gut, and essentially it's just me needing, a little something extra, a challenge. And obviously moving to the other side of the world seems a little bit extreme, but for me,
The challenge, yeah.
it was a challenge I wanted to take on. So no, I never moved here. I've never traveled. I've never backpacked. I've certainly seen a lot of Australia and been blessed to visit a lot of places. But the moment I got to Sydney, I started working towards a permanent visa so I could essentially pick up my practice and start working here, which was always my plan. Certainly, I don't think I was equipped for how difficult it was going to be to get my visa, the permanent visa, because of course we come over on a temporary visa, which not a lot of employers are willing to look at a working holiday visa to employ someone on a permanent basis as a sales agent. Anyway, just purely because of the training that it takes. And as it takes a long time to build a name in an area, and we're very restricted on a working holiday visa. So that was a bit of a shock to the system when I came over. I didn't really understand how that process would work. So I just had to bide my time. I temped in a lot of different positions, and which was really strange for me not to be working in the industry during that period. And having my weekends free, it sounds lovely, but for me it was just very different. So, like I obviously essentially managed to get my visa, and the first thing I did was move back into the industry and start building a name for myself all over again. So yeah.
Because with the visa, I'm assuming the one that you were on meant that you could only work for one employer for 6 months at a time, and then you had to move on, which is not, when we look at sales, it's not a lot of time to like build up some traction and
No.
get some wins. Like sales takes time to build. You know, at 6 months you'd be foregoing all of that hard work. So
Yeah.
that would have been really tough going from this.
Yeah, it wasn't an option for me. I mean, I temped in some real estate offices, and I just remember thinking, I'm so jealous because I want to be getting my teeth into this. And so I did. What it actually did was allow me to suss out quite a lot of offices, pick up the vibes, see what they're doing, suss out different areas, and I also worked in temp jobs outside of the industry as well. But I always had a very clear goal that as soon as my visa was organized, I was going to be moving back into the industry. And that's exactly what I did the moment I did receive my visa.
Yeah. And so obviously getting to test the waters, see how everyone works, you didn't actually end up going into sales. You did sales, but in a different style of role in real estate.
Yeah, well, so I was working briefly in sales in the CBD. So in Sydney CBD, I got a job in a boutique office. It was very boutique, amazing team, still the same team there now. I was working, which was new for me, in the role as a sales associate. So I'd gone from a standalone agent in Scotland to now being a sales associate to 2 senior agents. And like, at times I struggled with moving into that different space, but I do think I look back now and I think I actually picked up loads of great tips from the agents. It allowed me to learn about the area that I was servicing at the time, but essentially I found out very quickly that there probably wasn't a lot of progression for me in the company, given it was so boutique. I'd done boutique in Scotland as well, which was amazing. We were like a family, but I felt that I owed it to myself. I'd moved all the way over here to work for a big brand where there's more scope for me to evolve as a standalone agent. So essentially, I gave quite a long notice period to them and started interviewing with lots of different agencies. I had a very clear idea in my head where I wanted to be working as an agent. That the role I wanted was as an agent. And like we discussed, I ended up taking a job in North Sydney, which was just not on my radar in the slightest, and in the business space. And that's not, I was getting offers. I was getting offers for the role I wanted in the locations that I was sure that I wanted to work in. But like I said, I listened to my gut a lot. And there was something about this agency in North Sydney that, although the role wasn't what I was ideally looking for, I felt like I could do something within their office. So I took the job in new business. But like, just like in Scotland, my boss within months was telling me that he wanted me in the sales team. So I thought it was good. I feel, like I said, I actually live over the east side myself. So I wasn't familiar with the north side. I feel like those months I could really start to know who the buyers were in the market. I got to know the different buildings. I really familiarized myself with the location. So I think that actually set me up, good to go as a sales agent. I wasn't super fresh in the area, but I then eventually found myself back into the standalone space, but a brand new, fresh name in this location with no database, no clients, no buyers.
So completely ground zero, start from scratch. Did you feel free again? Like you've got that full autonomy, you're a standalone agent, you can do what you love? Or was it like, oh no, I literally have to grind from the bottom again?
Do you know what? I honestly must be mad, but I just don't ever doubt myself. Like I've seen myself like rise from different situations so many times. Like I felt the freedom. And as I was working, there's lots of people, I guess, that wouldn't take an associate role that had been standalone for so many years. But I just knew everything I was doing was taking me to where I needed to be. So I felt content that I was back in the space where I knew I should be. I felt lucky that my boss found out so quickly what I should be doing. But of course, there's always a degree of nerves. But I do find that I actually work best under a certain degree of pressure.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a case of, I didn't even stop to think for a second, oh, is this going to work? It was just tunnel vision
Yeah.
to source out business wherever I could.
Yeah. And for you, not having connections and not really knowing the area, you really focused on relationships. And if you met a buyer, you just held on to them and didn't let them go, which that actually created business for you. Talk me through that model or that process that you adopted there to build up to being a well-regarded and well-known agent in that North Sydney area.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to pick up a listing in a nearby building in North Sydney, and that was my only listing on at that time. So I had all the time in the world to really service the buyers as well as my seller. So I made sure my seller got the best service possible. But on top of that, I also serviced the buyers, each and every one of them. And in this case, it so happens that a couple of those buyers also had North Sydney property that they needed to sell. So I sold the property at auction. It was my first ever auction. It was the scariest experience of my life because we also do not auction property in Scotland. Yeah, that was a new experience for me. But off the back of my very first listing, I then listed 3 new listings off the back of that. So one was a secondary home from my vendor, and 2 were the bidders on the property. So that was just a lesson for me that if I really service buyers, they very quickly or down the track become your sellers as well. So where I am now, which I know we'll touch on, next, is at Brexit Whitney. That's exactly why I felt we aligned, was because Brexit Whitney are very big on buyer servicing. I've been doing that since day one here. Like that's something that it taught me very quickly that, if I want to be in the fortunate position that I'm never scraping around for listings, I've always got plenty coming on. When I've sold something, I've got something else coming on. I need to be servicing the buyers as well as the seller. I do think it's something I do really well. And luckily, I've got a high strike rate of listing something else off the back of a listing.
Yeah. And I think that's, when a buyer's in the market, they do want to be serviced and they want transparency, they want help, they want to feel like, you've got their back as well. And obviously as agents, you work for the vendor, but you're also providing that level of service has bred business for you. And that's how you've built out your name for yourself. So as doing that, you've sold your first auction, which I'm sure was incredibly scary. Got your
I pretended what I was doing on the floor, but I really had no idea. But I still don't love auctions to this day. Like I don't think anyone loves them, but I've definitely done a few more now. But like I think from there, I just carried on with that model that if I service this, if I really service my client, like North Sydney, there's a lot of investors, so 9 times out of 10. Generally, people have a couple of investments. I tend to get a lot of repeat business and referral the last couple of years. So that's just all based on really honing in on that service. Like essentially, it's really, really simple. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I tell someone I'm going to send them a trade's name or some contacts, I do it. So you're not over promising. You're not taking on too much business where you can't still service at that level. It's super simple. You just treat people how you want to be treated. You act honestly and you practice what you preach. So
and it's like it really isn't complicated to just follow through, give some nice service, give people an update. It pays off tenfold. I'm sure the commissions from those listings were way more than the couple of phone calls that it costed to build those relationships. So it does pay off massively.
Massively pays off. I think people can read through the BS of real estate, and that's one thing that I pride myself on is when I did move here from Scotland, I was never going to change the way I sold. I wasn't going to try and put on any form of persona. I'm probably not for everyone as an agent, but that's the beauty of real estate. There's someone out there for everyone, and I'm really genuine in my approach. I really do care. I'm super passionate about every sale that I work on for my clients. And like, I think once they feel that, then there's a level of trust that's built instantly. And that essentially helps us right through to the sale if there's trust there.
Yeah. So through adopting that service model and really working your buyers, you did get to a position within 12 months of working in North Sydney as an agent where you were ranked as #1 agent in the area. That's quite an achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, like that was probably one of the proudest moments of my career. Like I said, I really found I was very passionate about the area, somewhere that I never saw myself working, and I worked extremely hard, as does everyone. You dedicate your life to the industry, and to achieve that in my first 12 months was, it was certainly up there in some of my proudest moments.
Yeah. So now, looking forward to where you are now, you're with Bressic Whitney, and there's a real alignment there. I know their business model is very strongly geared around buyer servicing, buyer management, those relationships, and very much thinking about the long game, not the short term of, can I sell you this property, yes or no, and move on to the next. It's where could I help you, even if it's not my listing, and move on to the next. Talk me through how business is different for you now, or what you've enhanced now that you've made that move to Bressic as an agent.
Yeah, like I think when we spoke, I sort of explained to you that I've had to really pull back and just look at what was next for me, because with the change of brand, I think you just reevaluate your business. And like we discussed, I was awarded #1 in North Sydney, and really North Sydney was my baby and still is. But for me, it felt like the natural next step to be focusing more on moving further into the housing market rather than just the apartment market space. So what that means is that, I specialized in an area that's 80% apartments. I really had to, let go of just wanting to service just the one area and be open to, I was getting pulled into different areas, into housing appraisals, and I was saying, well, it's not North Sydney though. I service North Sydney, and you kind of have to let go of that. And when you've been doing something for so long that works really well, it's hard to then pull apart your business and think, well, what needs to change to then move to the next level? And it definitely involves a degree of discomfort. I certainly believe that when you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, usually it's because something good is happening. You're essentially evolving, and I've really had to, just pull back, look at where I want my business to go. And in some cases, that does mean not taking listings that might not benefit where I want my business to go now. So whereas I feel like for a long time, my goal was to be #1 in one particular area, I feel like now my goals have changed to match my own personal growth.
Yeah. And with that, like, besides your career, there's things that you've changed in your personal life and habits that you've adjusted as well to help you with where you want to go with your career.
Yes, I had. Yeah. So I'm not going to lie, I was never an early morning person at all. I have always exercised to a degree, but it wasn't on a regular basis. And I slept badly, and I had terrible eating habits, not in a form of I would eat badly, but regularly it would get to 4 o'clock and I would realize I hadn't ate anything that day, which in turn is great for energy levels. So I sort of reassessed. Again, I looked at where I wanted to be this year, where essentially my growth was taking me. And with that, I felt like I needed to implement more structure. Like I've always been very diligent and everything. I've been lucky that I've not had to be too structured, and because I am so OCD about my day, everything's worked well. But I felt that to allow me to get to that next level that I'm working towards, I really needed to be just a lot more structured. So it wasn't just working anymore. It was, there was a lot of practice involved. So I have now started, so I wake up between 4:30 and 5 every day. I go to the gym 5 days a week. If I'm not at the gym that day, I'm very conscious that I still want to be moving my body in some way. So I'll go for a walk, or I'll take my dogs out. If it's the Sunday, I'm not going to the gym. I take my dogs out for a really long bushwalk. Either way, I'm moving my body, which is really good for my mind. And that then knock-on effect has been great for my sleep. Again, I would be very late up, and then still early in the morning getting up, so that I just simply wasn't getting enough sleep. With the exercise, I'm now craving food, so I never skip breakfast or lunch anymore. So essentially then that helps my energy levels, so it just helps me work really high performance all day long, rather than getting that slump midday because you've not ate anything. So it's very, some people might see it as boring, but for me it really works. My weeks are very, very carefully structured, to the point that, my meals each week are the same. I know what I'm having, I know what time I'm up, I know what time I need to be entering my gym to get back to then start my day. I do my to-do list when I'm back from the gym every day, and it just keeps me accountable. I think I said to you when we first spoke, I read a book at the end of last year where it was a real estate agent in New York, and he said you really need to be viewing every minute of your day as currency. And I really live by that now. So to who I'm having a conversation with, to what I'm doing in my day in front of the laptop, I'm saying, is this dollar efficient? Is this actually going to be making me money? Does this need to take this long? Who should I be calling that's going to take me in the right direction, rather than just winging it?
Yeah, because I think in real estate or any sales role, it's so easy to be busy being busy and like just filling your time doing activities, and I had a really productive day, but have you really got any outcomes, or have you moved closer to getting a listing or getting a listing sold, or getting into get an appraisal? So it sounds like you've put some real structure in place and making hard decisions around, okay, who do I give my time to? I might do less, but it's quality.
100%, because I do think there's that idea, there was nights, and maybe there's still some nights, but not as much as there used to be, where I'd be on the laptop until 11, 12 o'clock. Did I necessarily need to do that, or could I have been structuring my day better? So that's something I really wanted to focus on this year, and it's going really well. And like I said, I diarize everything. So I've got a color-coded system, pink if it's personal, I diarize my travel time. Everything is really calculated. So I'm the type of person that I don't want to ever be late to an appointment or flustered. I like to be very much kept together all the time. So it works for me. Like I said, for some people, I think they would hate it, but I just think that structure is so important. Like I said, it keeps you accountable. You can put your prospecting in every day, non-negotiables. My non-negotiables are red, so they stand out the most. And for me, it just worked really well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the goal from here? You've aligned yourself with a brand that has a process that you really love with that buyer first. You're working towards more of that housing market. You're protecting your time. Have you got any other goals for your career, or something that you'd like to achieve over the next sort of 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, certainly for me, it was just letting go in general is a big goal. I find that's actually helped me a lot. We can't always be control freaks, and I think the more that I learn to let go of certain areas of the business, it flows a lot easier. So for me, like I said, it was a big hurdle for me, just letting go of, okay, I need to specialize in just North Sydney. It needs to just be North Sydney, whereas there's been such amazing opportunities already this year, still in the lower North Shore, that I'm being called into. And for me, it was just a slight change in mind shift of what's always worked for me. So my goals are just to continue growing as a person, because I feel like I've grown a lot already this year. Just keep making business choices, like moving to Brexit Whitney. It's given me so much happiness. So just keep making business choices that financially make sense, but also bring me joy, because I have been doing this job for a long time now, and I think it's really important that we still really enjoy what we're doing. And like, my main goal is to keep running as an attraction business. working off referrals, repeat business. And, I think then gradually it will just naturally take me to that next step that I'm working towards, which is definitely, I've got plenty of clients still looking to sell their apartments, but moving into that more premium space.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you were to give advice to Louise in her early 20s, getting into real estate, what would you tell her to do? Or someone that's looking and getting into real estate, wants to be in sales, what would you say to them to help them on their career journey and get to number one where you've been?
Like, I think it's just persevere. Like, it's difficult, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
You need to always understand why you're doing this, because
yeah,
it's not glamorous all the time. Probably a very small percentage of it is glamorous. It's
yeah,
really tough. You need to be willing to put in the hard work. And if that the only thing that's going to keep you in the business is understanding why you're doing it in the first place. Your why is really important. That certainly got me through some difficult lows, and that come with the business naturally. I always understood why I was doing it, what I was looking to achieve, and just don't take things personally. Like, it used to
yeah,
hit me so hard when I lost a listing. I would take it so
yeah,
personally. We're not owed business.
yeah.
No one owes us anything. So, we need to just be willing to put in the hard work and, just trust the process, because if you're putting in the hard work, it's impossible for it not to come together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's great advice. And it is hard work, but it does pay off. And you can have a fantastic career in real estate if sales is the path, or new business, or property management, whatever way you go. Look, I think you should be incredibly proud of what you've achieved, Louise, coming to a brand new country, going into a brand new area, not having a network or contacts here, and getting to number one. That's an incredible achievement. So well done. And thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me and share your journey.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Working in Real Estate webinar. Feel free to share your thoughts, questions, and suggestions with us. We would love to hear from you.